I just I wanna build. I wanna be a part of building something and growing something and be at the center of it. It's a rush that you're always kinda chasing, trying to build something and create something out of nothing.
Hey, this is Jesse here, and you're about to hear episode 144 of the Betting Startups podcast with Adam Small from Third Planet Affiliates. In this one, we discuss Adam's 20-year history building affiliate businesses within real money gaming, which includes multiple exits. We also talk about what motivated him to start Third Planet Affiliates, the unplanned acquisition of props.com, navigating earnout periods, and the key to a successful co-founder relationship based on his endearing partnership with Cal Spears. I have a ton of respect for Adam and had a great time talking to him, and I know you'll enjoy this one as much as I did.
The Betting Startups podcast is presented by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market. 4 out of the top 5 US operators personalize player experiences with Optimove. Learn more about Optimove by requesting a demo at optimove.com/bettingstartups. If you like what you see, you'll get your first month free.
All right, we are back here with episode 144 of the Betting Startups podcast, and today I'm joined by, for me, one of the top people in the affiliate space within real money gaming, somebody who is a serial entrepreneur and is back with his latest project. I'm joined by Adam Small. Adam, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today, man?
It's great to be on, Jesse. I've been listening for a while. Excited to be on here for the first time.
Awesome. Yeah, I've been looking forward to this one. We're into December now, so it's rating season, and I was waiting to bring some of the heavies in to close out the year strong here. So no pressure. The bar is high, Adam.
I appreciate that.
Right on, man. So look, we're going to do a deep dive on everything you're up to now with Third Planet Affiliates. But before we get there, as we typically do, let's start with a bit of a background around yourself. I know a lot of my audience is familiar with you, but as I mentioned, like, you're a serial entrepreneur within the space. You've led a number of prolific projects, frankly, in companies over the last 20-ish years. So why don't you try and sort of punctuate that 20-year history in a few minutes worth of a backgrounder here for us, and then we'll shift into Third Planet.
Awesome. So I guess take us back to mid 2020 or 2004. And I was living with Cal Spears, who became my business partner. And we were just really into online poker. We were staying up late nights playing all the time, sometimes till 5, 6 in the morning. And we decided to create a website that focused on the real life details of the kind of famous online poker players. At the time, there were just all these screen names that people would watch and chat with and see play for big stakes, but didn't really know anything about them. And we wanted to put faces to those names and rank the players and just kind of turn them into more of full-fledged celebrities, not just screen names. And that's what Pocket Fives is all about. We started that. It launched in January of '05. It was a rocket ship. It kind of like surpassed all of our wildest expectations in terms of traffic, revenue. We didn't really know what we were doing going into it. We just kind of were excited to build a site. And we didn't know about affiliates at all. And we got in and quickly realized that was the way to monetize a site like this, and figured out how to get those links in front of people and those codes, and how to turn the site into something that produced revenue. And I think about 3 months in, I realized this is definitely my full-time job and I'm not going to get another one. I almost ended up working at Accenture or, one of those many other random companies out there. We did that for a while. UIGA hit in late 2006. We were really young. I was 25. We were not interested in a business that might be illegal. I think, in hindsight, it doesn't look so bad, but at the time it was just very uncertain where things were going with the industry. And we decided we'd look for a buyer, and we ended up selling the company. I moved to Costa Rica for a few years and worked for the company that bought us. And then Black Friday hit in 2011, kind of the nail in the coffin of US online poker, at least for a while. And I came back to the States and started a new network of sites sometime later that started with the site NJ Online Gambling. And later we bought the domain US Bets and built a site on that. We bought the website Sports Handle from a couple of other people and kind of just built out this news network that was really well timed with, PASPA going down and sports betting proliferating in the US. And that went really well. And we ended up selling it to Better Collective along with our friends from our original Pocket Fives partners, my original partners who had started Roto Grinders. We kind of put it all together and sold it to Better Collective. And I worked for them for a few years and then left last year. And when my non-compete was up, I started Third Planet, and that's where we're at today.
You really did a good job tying that all into like a 3-minute backgrounder, Adam. For anybody that's listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts as well, I should mention that Adam's rocking a Roto Grinders hat today. So yeah, there it is. And shout out to Cal. Cal was a recent guest a few episodes ago, obviously talking about his latest project, which is an amazing AI-driven chatbot for sports betting. And for anybody that wants to hear more about your and Cal's journey, Cal did a deep dive on an episode of the podcast about a year and a half ago. So we'll drop a link in the show notes of this episode if anybody wants to go hear sort of the full arc of that story and that wild time you guys had building Pocket Fives. And I think we're about the same age, Adam, and I really reflect back on the early 2000s playing a lot of online poker. And it was just like, I don't know, man, like back fondly on those days. Obviously, I wasn't in the business or in the industry at that time. I was just a recreational player hanging out in the card rooms late at night as well. But it was a ton of fun, man. And like, I really long for those days sometimes.
It's really crazy. And there's so many, just paths we could go down, probably talk for hours about this. But I feel like I was this 25-year-old kind of nerdy, like definitely didn't have a girlfriend or anything. And all of a sudden, like, we're at like the Bodog party in Las Vegas, and there's like a girl taking a bath, like at the next table beside us. We're like, what's going on here? Like, so I think we just, we were immersed in a world that we were not prepared for, or kind of knew what we were getting into at that time. And it made it fun and exciting and different. It really was an interesting time. And I remember thinking, I'm just going to mention this because I just finished reading Nate Silver's book On the Edge, which a lot of people have been talking about lately. And I remember thinking back then, there are all these guys that are, in their late teens, early 20s, or like really good poker players. And what's going to happen? They're not going to be poker players for the next 30, 40 years, not all of them. And sure enough, a lot of them are now crypto traders, or, other, as Nate would say, Riverians, like out there looking for edges and wherever they can find it. It's really interesting over 20 years what's happened with all that.
Well, we'll leave the past there because, as you say, I think we could spend an hour easily kind of going down the rabbit hole there. But I do want to talk about Third Planet. And I think to kick us off here, Adam, one thing I'm really interested in kind of hearing from you to start this conversation is, as you alluded to, you did a stint at Better Collective following the acquisition of your previous company. And, your time there ended, you wrote out the non-compete. Now you're back, right? You're here to take another bite of the apple. And I've listened to a couple other podcasts recently, just more general entrepreneurship and business podcasts that talk a little bit about, for, I guess, serial entrepreneurs, and particularly ones that have had successful exits, the sense of like after the exit, there being something almost like missing that you seek to recreate, even though maybe you don't necessarily, from a financial perspective, obviously don't know the terms of your deals or whatnot, but I'll assume that they were okay for you. What was like the motivation, I think, for you to sort of come back here to start Third Planet, right? I mean, obviously there's a business opportunity you see, but like for you at this stage of your life and given everything you've done, like what's sort of like the intrinsic motivation at this stage for you to get back into the game?
It's a good question, and I'm sure you'll hear a lot of different answers if you ask different people this, but it's very interesting. Leading up to the exit, I was excited about selling when we did. I wasn't really like financially set at that point, and I am much more now after that. But it kind of all peaked like the moment the wire hit the bank account. And then right after that, it just was, that was kind of like, it was one moment. Okay, nice. It's a bigger number in there now. And then you got to kind of figure out what you care about today, not just what you cared about before today. And we were in an earnout, which lasted several years. And we were obviously motivated by that because our ultimate sale price depended on how we performed during that period. But I think as the earnout went along and we got towards the end of it, I started realizing that I think I was just less motivated by the money and more motivated just by growing what we were working on. And as long as I was able to do that, as long as I was able to kind of keep producing growth and seeing the sites grow and seeing, kind of accolades come our way, be it in the form of, people praising our work or whatever, that was always very motivating for me. And at some point, I think as we just got into the grind of being part of this big business, I felt like I was less at the center of it and kind of more on the periphery. And I wanted to be back in a position where I was really grinding and where success or failure really depended on the work that I did day to day. And I think that when you've created startups, that's a feeling that you really miss when you end up in a bigger organization, is that feeling of everything I do could affect the trajectory of this business. It's also stressful often because, that means you could screw it up very easily and not have anyone else to blame. but I really trust my partners. I've got a really good group, and I don't know. I just I want to build. I want to be a part of building something and growing something and be at the center of it. We want to make money too, like everybody who's in business, but I think it's more just about it's a rush that you're always kind of chasing, trying to build something and create something out of nothing.
Yeah, that resonates, and I think would resonate with a lot of people that listen to this podcast as well. Well, look, we're happy to have you sort of back in the arena here for your latest stint with Third Planet, Adam. Why don't you talk a little bit about just high concept, what Third Planet's up to, and kind of what you guys have in market up to this point?
When we started it, the first site we started was a lottery website called Lottery Geeks. And that was an area that I didn't know a lot about. And so we kind of did a deep dive into it real quickly. We started calling everyone we knew that knew anything about lottery. We were kind of checking our contacts, seeing who we'd run into before that was now at places like Jackpocket or jackpot.com or some of these other courier services or iLotteries or anything else. Just trying to get to know the space. And that site is probably a long-term play for us. I don't think it's something that we're even really going to be trying to monetize anytime soon. But for the public-facing side of it, we're really trying to provide interesting news about the lottery and about the growth of the lottery space around the US. And then our second site was casinoreports.com. I would say that that's the site we're most focused on long term. Its goal is to be similar to what we were doing at our old business with Sports Handle, but for online casino. Just a really deep, high quality news website about casinos. And we have a fairly small team right now, but we definitely want to grow it. And we want to do more feature reporting, more long form, just get into the type of content that will really educate people about what's going on behind the scenes. Casino business is complicated. What people usually see is the end product. You see the slot machine or the blackjack table or whatever, but you don't know all the various factors that go into providing that experience and maximizing both the experience for consumers and the revenue for the casinos. And we're interested in just really getting into the details of all of that. And then an opportunity came in front of us to buy the site props.com in late June. And we were not focused on that space, the sort of like DFS prop betting type space. But it's something of interest to us. It's kind of in the same realm as what Roto Grinders was doing in terms of like the type of players it's focused on. And the opportunity was just kind of like the price is right and we'll figure everything else out after. And so we completed that deal in like 4 days or something like that. It was crazy. I mean, it just came in front of us, or we at least came to agreement. There was a bidding process and we won the bid. And before we knew it, we were the owners of the site. And then it was like, okay, now we need to figure out how to run this thing. And we brought over one employee and we've hired a bit more of a team. We actually hired an old editor that we had at Roto Grinders who used to run editorial there. He's the GM of the site. And the plan with that is definitely, it could branch out many ways, but it's high quality content around props and prop betting and potentially even subscription content in the future. But for now, mostly just free stuff that we're putting on the site.
All right, I'll tell you a funny story quickly about your props.com acquisition. So back, you said, I think it was June, you guys did that deal. It must have been like,
Yeah.
must have been like late May or early June, but it was after obviously the former owners of that website, which is Fans Unite. They had basically divested the rest of their assets. The last one being Betting Hero, which obviously went back to its founders. Shout out to Jay and Jeremy. And basically props was like the last asset left in their portfolio. And I'd actually reached out to my friends at Fans Unite saying, hey, what are you guys doing with this? Because I actually see some opportunity here. And they're like, actually, funnily enough, just this morning, we found a buyer for it. They're like, you were a day too late for the bidding process. I'm like, shit. But glad it went to a good home, Adam. Could have gone to a better team than you guys. And I don't know what I would have done with it anyways. But it's such like obviously a strong domain name and probably a lot of potential for it with that category.
Yeah, I think, it came down to price for us in all candidness, and I can't publicly disclose exactly what that was, but when I first heard it was available, I kind of had in my mind that it was going to be about 5 times what we actually ended up paying for it, and at least. And I kind of had like written it off. And when we heard like where the bidding actually was, it made a lot more sense to us to just kind of buy it and figure it out as we go. And I'm really excited about that site. It's definitely the best domain we've ever owned. And it's just a matter of really figuring out what the potential is and investing in the right areas. And I think long term, that's going to be one that we're really glad we did.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess coming back to one of the other ones you mentioned, Casino Reports, You'd alluded to Sports Handle, which was your previous site, and I was a voracious reader of Sports Handle. I thought it really stood out, and to your point, like a lot of like just like really strong long form journalism there, right? And you don't get a lot of that, frankly, within the industry. And I was really sad to see Sports Handle sort of get wound down, but then happy to see sort of a new iteration of it, I guess, manifested through Casino Reports. And I see a lot of similarities, I think, between the two, and I guess also probably because some of the team from Sports Handle, I believe, is now behind Casino Reports. Am I right about that?
Yeah. So one of the first things that Cal Spears and I felt after we started Third Planet was that we really needed to bring in Brett Smiley,
Yeah.
who had been the editor in chief of Sports Handle, one of the founders that we had actually bought it from, and he had come on and worked with us for several years. And Brett is absolutely phenomenal. He's become a great personal friend of mine, but also just an incredible colleague and great. Just he thinks about the business of journalism, and he thinks about the journalism side and the business side together in a way that really works well. And I think he's very unique in that regard. So we chased him as soon as we thought we could, and we're lucky enough to bring him in. And so yes, he was the brains behind the editorial operation at Sports Handle, and he is the brains behind the editorial operation where we are now. And then the first full-time hire we made, we were fortunate enough to be able to rehire Eric Raskin, who had worked for us at US Bets. And Eric, I've known for many years. He had gotten laid off at Better Collective and was available, which was very fortunate for us, and we think extremely highly of. And yeah, now actually, as of just today, we announced Jeff Edelstein has joined our team, who was with us for a while. I don't think it's really been intentional for us that we haven't been like looking to hire all our old colleagues, but it's turned out that a lot of the best people that we've seen come in front of us have been people that we worked with there before. And it does help because one of the things that I would say about Sports Handle and the way it got to where it was years of process tweaking. It was going through our editorial standards and updating them and improving them. It was bringing on team members that augmented what we were able to do. An example that was Matt Rybaltowski. When we brought him in, he was able to do long form feature content that we weren't really able to do with the team we had before. So we kept finding new people and new capabilities and incorporating them into our sort of institutional knowledge. And I think something that's really hard that a lot of people don't understand, especially at acquiring companies sometimes, is that when you lose some of those people and that institutional knowledge, it's not easy to just replace them with other bodies. You need the people that have been doing the work, that have been working together and sort of understanding the vision and the goals and how to produce that high quality product that people like you, Jesse, were consuming. And it's not as simple as just, having people who can produce X words per week. And I think that, those goals got lost at some point with not just Sports Handle. I'm not targeting them specifically, but I think a lot of the sites that were producing high quality content but got acquired by bigger companies, that it became harder to continue on with that project. And we're definitely very focused on maintaining and growing a team of people that are capable of keeping it up to the standard that we want to have.
Yeah, right on, Adam. Love the strategy. Love that you got the band back together for it. And again, selfishly, as a former reader of Sports Handle, been pretty excited to read a lot of the long form features coming through Casino Reports specifically. So love the work you and the team are doing there. And sounds like you're investing heavily in really expanding that coverage. I guess now that you have these three properties in the portfolio, like two questions to here, I guess. Like, well, number one, like, are you going to look over the shorter medium term to expand the portfolio, or now is it a case of just nurturing the three properties you have and focusing on those? And then as a part B to that, Adam, you alluded to the fact, I think with props, you have a general manager sort of overseeing that particular site day to day. So with this strategy of, sort of putting GMs over top of each of the properties, how are you spending your time, I guess? And like, where do you focus your energy, I guess, growing the Third Planet affiliates business?
That's a good question. We only have a GM for props so far because I felt like Cal and I weren't going to have the bandwidth to do everything we needed to do there. And the guy that we brought in is someone we really trust and like a ton. I would like to have GMs of all the sites, but it's probably not quite budgeted for us yet. Hopefully will be in the future. But the way that I spend my time, it's a real mix. I'm all over the place right now. I definitely am doing a lot more like accounting and things like that than I would like to be right now, although I guess good problem to have in some ways. But also right now, just these last few months, Cal and I have had a tremendous number of opportunities come in front of us that some of them we were expecting or looking for, others just kind of have been random. And we're really trying to give each one the time and attention it deserves if we think it's something that we'd like to pursue. And, usually complicated deals don't work out, but occasionally they do. And so we've just been keeping our eyes open and taking time for meetings with people that have ideas or have things they want to bring in front of us. We've looked into acquiring other sites. We would definitely, to answer part of your question there before, would consider expanding the portfolio. I don't think we'll launch another site from scratch, at least right away, although we could, but I'm not expecting to exactly. But I definitely think good M&A opportunities that expand our reach are really interesting to us. I don't just want to go like be a vacuum cleaner and suck up everything that has like a reasonable price because I think eventually we'll just fall on our face if we do that because we'll get too big and won't be able to handle it. But I am very interested in stuff that will really grow our ability to get traffic and revenue. And so we're evaluating. There's a lot of interesting stuff out there right now. It's definitely a time of tumult for the space.
Yeah, that's a perfect springboard into what I want to talk about next, which is basically the tumult you just referenced there, a bit of a reckoning happening, at least at the public markets for some of the larger super affiliate companies. I know you've been doing the podcast circuit a little bit lately with Jason on business of betting. You're recently with Brad at Zero Latency. And you did a bit of a deep dive on those. So we won't go too much into sort of what happened with those super affiliates and, kind of the fallout there. But to your point, there is now a lot of both, I don't want to say like distressed assets available out there, but there's a lot of different interesting opportunities. And certainly as an extension to that, a lot of very, very good people that are out there right now available for their next opportunity as well. So I do think, objectively looking at you guys from the outside here, you're very much like in the right place at the right time with that. I guess what I want to spend a few minutes here on, Adam, is first of all, for private companies at the earlier stage, right? This is called the Betting Startups Podcast. After all, a lot of the founders that are on this podcast and listen to this podcast have an affiliate business model as part of their revenue mix. What I'd love to hear, I guess, your assessment on is what do you see the, I guess, downstream effects being for these companies? Is there still opportunities as an affiliate here in 2024, soon to be 2025? And if so, like, what are some of the things you'd advise some of these companies should be thinking about as they look to build their business around the traditional affiliate model?
It could be a really long answer. I'll try not to make it super long, but I think there's a lot of good things that you can do in affiliate. And I think that if you're really narrowly focused on like SEO and organic traffic, like a lot of affiliates have been historically, and we're very focused on that at Third Planet, at least right now, that's going to be a really hard thing to break into because you've really got to get a lot of high quality links. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, everyone talks about links, and I'm not talking about buying links. I'm talking about you've got to actually be able to get other sites to link to if you ever want to grow your search presence. And that's really hard. You've got to produce content that's unique. You've got to spend a lot on that content. You got to spend a lot on outreach. It really takes a real budget to compete in that pool. And Google is changing all the time. AI is a thing I'm told that's happening. You just can't assume things are going to stay the way they've been. And that if you invest a ton of money into one specific thing, that's going to work out. So I think if you're focused on that kind of site, there's not that much room. There are some people that are really skilled at it or have a lot of budget for it and can compete and do well. But I think that the affiliates that are going to do better are the ones that are building products, unique products that, gambling is a great example, Cal's other business, where it's something that's interesting to people that people will talk about. Building communities. There's a lot of just things like Discord communities that do pretty well in the affiliate space. And I think what you're going to see more of over time is operators figuring out ways to compensate affiliates for more than simply generating new customers. That hasn't happened that much yet. If you'd asked me 5 years ago, I would have said that would have happened by now. But I'm still going to say that's going to happen within the next 5 years because I just think that, especially if I'm FanDuel, I'm BetMGM, DraftKings, etc., I just don't want to be limited to people that are reaching new customers. Like, new customers are going to be less of a focus at some point as you have fewer state launches and these markets get more mature. And you're going to need to find ways to get added bets from people who are already your customers. And if you got someone, and gambling is a great example of this, of the type of business that may get people to bet more than they otherwise would have. And I'm not talking about problem gamblers. I'm just talking about people who find fun bets and want to be entertained by the product. I think That's a really great example, but there are lots of great examples of community type activity and tool related activity that can increase betting over time and that can keep bettors engaged. And I don't know why, if I'm an operator, I'd want to shut myself out of, having partners that I can compensate for that kind of stuff. So I think we'll see more affiliates eventually focused on increasing betting behavior and affiliates that are focused on engaging sort of communities and more tools focused affiliates and a lot less of just the traditional, like basically what we're doing, the news site type of stuff, just because there's only so many spots in the top 10 in each search result.
Yeah, when Cal was on a few weeks ago talking about Gambly, he commented how he's thinking about this model of basically being compensated for bet slips, right? So basically for each incremental bet, it can be
Yep.
attributed back to a product that is driving. Obviously, the incentives are aligned there for both the operator and the affiliate, which is really interesting. I guess my question to you, Adam, if you think about that, I guess, as being innovation, if you will, with the affiliate model, right? This really gets away from that traditional top of funnel cost per acquisition type model, which has been ingrained within everybody's minds. How open do you think operators will be to these new sort of progressive models? I mean, obviously it makes sense for you and I talking about it, but to actually get an operator to commit to that and to figure out what the unit economics look like. And obviously,
Yeah.
as we all well know, like their margins are already very, like, do you think that's actually viable to get, or do you think there's a lot of resistance that's going to be in the way of that being a possibility?
I think it's viable. I think the issue is just committing resources to it, really. It's complicated, like you said. The unit economics are complicated because a lot of times you're gonna have players that are on a rev share already with some affiliate or that you've paid some big CPA for. And so on top of that, you're also paying a percent of like other bets to some other affiliate. I think it does, complicate things from the operator's perspective. But over time, if they care about this and if they believe it's going to grow their business, they will devote more resources to figuring out how to do it properly. I don't think anyone's really figured out how to do it properly yet, and that's why you're not really seeing it much. And I know these deals have happened because I've seen some of them where, an affiliate is getting paid for a percentage of just bet slip revenue without owning the player.
Mhm.
But I can see why operators are shy about it and worried about it right now, like at least doing it too broadly because they definitely don't want affiliates double dipping and they don't want situations where they're paying too much of their own yield and not making money off a customer. So they're gonna have to figure it out. But I think over time, what you'll see is that the rev shares for affiliates get smaller and the CPAs probably get smaller, at least a little bit. And there's a little more space for spending on retention and other things like that. And they're gonna have to because otherwise, I mean, they're gonna lose out to their competitors who will in fact figure that out. So I think there will be a race to, build departments around that kind of thing.
And I guess for you guys at Third Planet Affiliates, I mean, given that the word affiliate appears within your name, I'm assuming that's how you ultimately intend to monetize and build a business. But I guess my question, Adam, is like, how urgently are you looking to turn on sort of the revenue engine and really start to push the affiliate business through the three properties you have so far? I mean, is this a priority, or would you say more focused right now on just building up the sites, building up the audiences, and kind of just getting operational? Like, how soon, I guess, and how urgently are you guys looking to start to, really monetize this at a meaningful scale?
Yeah, I kind of want to just say yes, but no, we are just as of like the last few weeks, we've really started putting a lot of effort into getting the monetization engine running. The sites, the ones we built from scratch, are still very new, and it's probably going to be a bit of a slow boil until until we really reach that point where it's generating real revenue. But props.com already had some when we bought it, and we're definitely focused on increasing what we have there, getting a bigger share in search and more content that's monetizable on the site. And I would say that's a pretty urgent project for us. I think we've had a good football season. We've been happy with what we've seen, but I definitely want next one to be like 5x what we're doing now. And that means we got work to do between now and next September. I would say it's getting urgent. We definitely I think for the year 2024, we would have been fine with zero revenue. Maybe after we bought props, that's not entirely true, but we definitely weren't looking for growth of revenue in this year. But 2025 is going to be all about figuring out how we can really get that going.
Awesome, man. We're getting towards the home stretch here, and I want to spend a few minutes before we get out of here today sort of just, I guess, reflecting on your entrepreneurial journey, right? I mean, as I say, you're a serial entrepreneur. You've had several exits. You've kind of been there and done that from every perspective. And To start this part of the chat, Adam, you alluded to it a little bit earlier, but life after the exit, right? Like you had to spend a few years at Better Collective as part of the terms of that deal. And in a lot of conversations I have here, entrepreneurs that have been lucky and fortunate enough to have an exit sort of lament the earn-out period, right? I actually had one of them at G2E tell me, he's like, oh, I had to do my mandatory prison sentence is how he framed it, right? Like that's a bit extreme, but it kind of gives you a window into the mindset of how entrepreneurs look at this notion of spending time within a larger organization out of necessity. And what I'd love to hear from you based on your experience is like, it can't all be bad. There's got to be pros to that. Like, what are some of the, I guess, the benefits or like the things you took away from that time that have sort of helped you grow and develop and sort of, set you up for your next stage of success here with Third Planet?
I don't view the earnout as a prison sentence. That is extreme. I agree. I think, it's hard because there are alignment issues, especially as you get towards the end of the earnout. Most of our payout depended on the performance in the final year of the earnout, which meant that final year we were sort of disincentivized from increasing investment and spend on the sites, and they were thinking more about the future and wanting to invest and grow as they should be. And so it wasn't a contentious disalignment. It was just like the goals were kind of starting to diverge between the founders and the new owners. And it just gets tricky because you have a good relationship with them. We certainly had a good relationship with them, and we wanted them to succeed. We wanted to see our stuff grow and succeed, but also we didn't want to invest hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars into things that weren't going to produce revenue, during the time that we were on earnout and have it count against our final payout. So it just gets tricky towards the end, and you end up spending time thinking about things that you don't really want to be thinking about. What you want to think about is just how to grow your business, how to build and grow. So it is complicated. That being said, I got a lot out of my time at Better Collective. I made a lot of really, really great contacts there. I think that I still very much believe they're the class of the affiliate space, certainly the class of big affiliates, and they conduct themselves in a way that I find very admirable, especially publicly, the way that they disclose publicly. Oh my God, lights just went out in here. But you're still with me.
We're good.
So the way they disclose publicly, the way they state their goals, the way they try to conduct themselves as a business, I find very admirable, and I learned a lot from observing them. And I also learned a lot about sort of the nitty gritty of the affiliate business. I learned a lot about just like little things that we would have incorporated into our own duties, but they had entire teams doing things like conversion rate optimization and, just how to handle relationships with partners and things like that. I found it invaluable. I'm so glad we did it. I'm glad I went through it. I don't really want to do it again, but I really got a lot out of it. And I have so many good relationships that I made with people that I otherwise would not have met because of that time with them. So I think at heart, I am an entrepreneur. I don't think I ever realized that I really was that until a few years ago. I think I just didn't want to get a job, and so was starting companies. And then at some point I realized, okay, I'm actually an entrepreneur. It's just like you doubt yourself internally or you have that imposter syndrome or whatever. But I think I am at heart an entrepreneur. I like working with small teams. I like being very involved. And like I said earlier, just having a really deep sort of personal importance to the direction of the project and being like very central to it. And so eventually I did need to get out and start my own thing again. But I think I'm a much better version of me because of the time I had there.
Awesome. Just to check in, Adam, are you good to keep recording in the dark there for like 5 more minutes or?
Yeah, let me just see if I can turn my light
Yeah.
back on. Oh, there it is.
There it
I
is.
think it's a motion sensor. I'm just not moving enough.
Awesome, Adam. Another thing I want to ask you about briefly here, and this is well documented now, right? Your partnership with Cal over 20 plus years, right? Cal's spoken about it. You've talked about it here. And look, you guys have built several companies together now, prolific ones within our space. And there's something to that, right? The fact that you guys have gone through these journeys together, sort of, side by side in the trenches, like you've gone through probably hell and back a number of times. And you're back once again here in your latest iteration with Third Planet Affiliates. And I'd love to just get your perspective, I guess, on what you see as the key to a strong and successful co-founder relationship. It's not easy for people to go into business together, right? At the beginning, it's always excitement and nothing but possibility in front of you. But once you kind of get into things, inevitably, like any relationship, you have your difficult moments and you get tested then. you guys have persevered, and I'd love to kind of get from you kind of what the key to your guys' success has been.
I'm glad you asked. I mean, it's definitely like I think the relationship that the two of us have had, both just as friends and in business together, is something that I really value a ton. I love Cal. He's a great guy. By the way, it's his birthday today that we're recording, so we should say
Oh, shout
happy
out Cal.
birthday,
Happy
Cal.
birthday, Cal.
Yeah, I mean, working with him it's been a pleasure. At times, it's been very stressful for both of us, I'm sure, but especially those early Pocket Fives days when we like kind of caught lightning in a bottle, and then the next year the UIGA comes, and we're like, okay, do we still have that lightning in the bottle? Are we screwed? Are we doing something illegal? Like we don't even know, you know? And we've been kind of up and down, run the gamut on emotions and all that stuff, but he became, you know, very successful during this time doing roto grinders and investing in other businesses. And he and I are really, really different. And I think some really key ways that have been positive for our ability to work together well. Like I don't know, I'm kind of like tunnel minded sometimes. Like I'm just very focused on what's in front of me. And I think Cal's a much more abstract thinker. He's much better at like seeing a product that's not there yet, envisioning it and bringing it to fruition. And I think I'm better at thinking about sometimes just like the very like narrow details in front of me and sort of how to get through them. And we collaborate well because of that. One of the things after we completed our earnout, we went on with most of our partners from the Roto Grinders and US Bets merger on a cruise. We actually like chartered a yacht. It was very extravagant and probably a once in a lifetime thing for me. But I was like, I probably would have just gone on with my life. You know, like we finished the earnout. I'm just like gonna, you know, I've got 3 kids. I'm living in Georgia at the time and just kind of like, okay, we'll keep on doing what we're doing. We have a little more money now. And Cal was very, very insistent, and I'm so glad he was on just like celebrating this, like just taking a moment to do something big and celebrate and like sort of just have a reward, like not just a financial reward, but like a more tangible feeling of like we earned this and now we're sort of getting that. And it was great. It was an example of like the way he thinks differently from me, I think, where he sort of sees this big picture and then kind of wants to celebrate that, the accomplishments, the achievements. Even after 1 year into Pocket Fives, and we still pre-UIGEA, he had the idea to get these trophies, just like these 1 year. I have it right here, my 1 year Pocket Fives
Oh yeah.
commemoration. I never would have thought to do something like that. And still, like, it probably seems like hokey to some people, but I just think Cal's very good at kind of like looking from above at what's been happening and realizing how much we've achieved and taking a moment to appreciate that. And I think those kinds of moments have helped me appreciate what we're doing more as well, because I'm, like I said, very tunnel minded, like just focused on what I got to do today and who I'm dealing with and so on. So I don't know. I think it's been a great friendship. It's been a great collaborative relationship. And I think that we have a lot of interpersonal trust and I think enough sort of cohesion between our abilities and what we're both working on all the time that works together well, that it's worked. I don't know if that's a good coherent answer, but it kind of sums it up for me.
No, I mean, it sounds like you guys will be probably forever, as long as you're both in business, continuing to collaborate in some capacity or another, right? You guys have been through it all, and it's a very inspirational, I think, journey you've been on together for the rest of us that, you know, are looking for examples to set our own trajectories. So I love what you guys have done, love what you're continuing to do together. And to take us home today, Adam, I want to spend a couple minutes on one other random question I have for you, which is, if you look back on the 20-ish year history of your time within real money gaming, if you could take one mulligan on a decision you made that might have, I don't know, maybe a small decision, but maybe one that could have completely reset the trajectory of the ensuing years. If you look back over that time and could change one thing, any obvious one that it would be for you?
Yeah, I mean, probably it's so hard to say because I don't think this ever would have been the right decision in the moment. But I
Mm.
think the first time we sold Pocket Fives after the UIGEA, if I could have gone back, I would have not done that. And it actually worked out great. The guy who bought it has become a great friend of ours. We saw him in Vegas at G2E, and everything works out for the best. I also met my wife because of that, because she's
Mm.
from Costa Rica. I met her living down there. But I still think that from a business perspective, we could have grown that site. We were just kind of starting to get to the point where we could have really blown that thing up and made it huge. And I think we kind of threw in the towel too early. The only other one I would say is after Black Friday, when I moved back to the States, I didn't get focused enough for a few years on what was next. I kind of just tried to keep on doing what I'd been doing. And I think I wasted a few years where I could have been a lot more productive and just didn't do enough to I think I was thinking back too much and not thinking forward. And I actually tried to do a couple businesses outside the industry. I was briefly trying to collaborate on a babysitting app, like sort of a matching for babysitters and parents that needed. I was like in the early 2010s. I was very briefly working on that. I had a couple of other ideas outside the space. I had a dream. If I have one more minute to ramble on
Yeah,
this,
you're good.
I had sort of a dream, and it still may be a dream, but probably one that's gone now, to build a tennis analytics website. I'm a huge tennis fanatic, and I think this is around 2015. I became very obsessed with the lack of good tennis data that was out there. And I wanted to build out like a point by point and shot by shot analytics platform that would have both a pro version for like professional coaches and people trying to instruct players, and a light version for consumers. And the actual raw data just didn't exist. Like I was out there talking to people like StatSync and so on, and you just couldn't get shot by shot data of like what was hit and what led to winning points and losing points. And I just thought it was going to be prohibitively expensive. We were going to need to like raise enough money to get cameras at every tournament or whatever. It just was going to get crazy. But that would have been a real dream of mine, to be in the tennis world somehow and sort of be relevant in that space. I've looked at other areas. We looked at a pickleball business as well a couple of years ago, but it seems like gaming is where I'm at and where it's at, and I guess I'm a lifer.
Well, let's not rule out tennis for a future chapter here, but you got your hands full for now with Third Planet Affiliates, Adam. Assume you got your crystal ball there in front of you and you're looking into it. In 5 years' time, where is Third Planet Affiliates in, and kind of where is it sitting within the broader spectrum of, I guess, the affiliate space within real money gaming?
Well, I hope it's a bigger version than what it is today, mostly. I want it to still have that family-run business feel where we know all the employees personally and talk to them in Slack, and we're not segmented off by like levels of management or whatever. And I hope that we have Casino Reports booming as a casino news site by that point, with more writers and more content, hopefully more types of content and revenue, of course. Props, potentially subscription product, definitely a lot more content than what's on there today. And then Lottery Geeks, that one, I don't know where it's going, but I'm excited about it. And I think we'll have more sites by then too. I just have a feeling we'll expand one way or another. I'm really not thinking at all. I mentioned this earlier on the show, and I know it sounds crazy to people, but I'm not thinking at all about when we're going to sell the company or what the exit strategy is. We're not in a rush to be thinking about that or trying to do that anytime soon. We just want to build and enjoy what we're doing. And we're confident in our ability to make a living doing this and take care of our employees well. And we're not in any rush for like a quick payday. We're in this for the long haul.
I was going to say, you're like beaming with the excitement. You can tell you're really having fun right now. That spark is there, man. So love to see it. And I love, again, what you and the team are building. For people listening that want to get in touch with you, Adam, and or check out the properties, quickly plug where they can go do all that.
Sure, yeah. I am on Twitter, X, whatever you call it, Adam Loeb Small, Adam Loeb Small. My email is adam@thirdplanet.us. Feel free to reach out anytime, or LinkedIn or whatever. I'm easily accessible, and I love hearing from new people. As long as you're not like trying to sell me a payment processor or something. I get a lot of very random LinkedIn DMs that are not germane to anything. But if you're reaching out and you're interested in our work and actually know what we do, I'd love to talk.
Right on, man. We'll drop links in the show notes to all of those points. But for now, Adam, we'll let you get on your way. But really appreciate you spending the time you have with us today and sharing a lot about what you're up to now, but also what's led up to this. It's been a really great episode, and wishing you and the team all the best moving forward, and look forward to continuing to follow your story, man.
Thanks, Jesse. I'm excited to listen later too.
Betting Startups podcast is presented by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market. 4 out of the top 5 US operators personalize player experiences with Optimove. Learn more about Optimove by requesting a demo at optimove.com/bettingstartups. And if you like what you see, you'll get your first month free.